All right, mates, welcome back to the channel. Hope everybody is doing well today. Quick update here. I promise, quick update on the follow-up for the Walleye cheating scandal in Cleveland, Ohio. Cuyahoga, sorry. Got Cuyahoga, New York on my mind. Cuyahoga County, obviously Ohio. For those of you who've been following this, it's kind of been out of the news a little bit. So I'll just take it back from their arraignment and their charges being their indictment from a grand jury to their arraignment and then their pretrial and their pretrial motions and all of that. They obviously have pled not guilty. That is not obviously, social media can convict you obviously pretty quickly, but that's not how our justice system works, and our justice system should not work that way. No matter what the ponderance or evidence of out there on that day of the videos and all that stuff, you guys know in a courtroom, everything's completely different. And so it makes perfect sense. I know a lot of people have got sort of like, how can these guys plead not guilty? They should just plead guilty. Maybe they'll get a lenient sentence. It's not really how it works, mates. And a lot of people I don't expect to understand that and know that. From the legal side, every state is different. Every DNR is different. All the rules and state regulations are different. Most people when they're traveling across the country for these fishing events, have to understand that. They have to be able to be willing to follow the rules in the state or the county or the body of water in which they're fishing on, regardless of what they think about the rule or the state or whatever. And so this event was obviously part of the LEWT trail. And so that's a Lake Erie walleye trail based out of there. They hold about 8 tournaments a year. And what a lot of people have missed out, I kind of picked on it just because I always go analytical to stuff to a fault. These guys were winning the series, like the equivalent of Angler of the Year, right? They were winning the team series over the course of the tournaments, okay? And they only needed to finish in 10th place in this particular event to win the whole shebang, to win the whole season. Now, this tournament had a purse of about $28,760 for the first place. So, mindset, what could have been, let's do what we need to do to win first place plus win the team of the year. In terms of what they did, what their mindset was, nobody really knows what their mindset is. But in the reality is going back and kind of looking at that tournament, if I'm not, and I could be wrong, but if we're looking what I was looking at and what was published and what Jason Fisher, who is the director of that trail, kind of piecing together his statements, it appears as though they would have won team of the year if you'd removed all of the excessive weights and fillets. So if they just showed up with the 5 fish, okay, to the scales and did it straight up legit, okay, like 99% of anglers do, they would have finished in the top 10 of that particular event and they would have won at team of the year. Instead, they were DQ'd, obviously, and that team of the year went to, help me out, Hendricks, I think Steve Hendricks. Let me look that up really quick. Steve Hendricks and Brian Ulmer. They won the team of the year for LEWT, okay? That season's over because of the disqualification to Jacob Runyon and Chase Kaminsky, okay? And then for that particular event, they were DQ'd, and no one's talking about the winners of that event, which were Steve Sicko. Steve, if I pronounced your name wrong, I completely apologize. And Christopher French. They won the event, okay, for LEWT. That no one's really talking about because everybody's talking about the cheaters. I'm included. I haven't talked about the winners of that event. Mentioned them on a live stream, mentioned them on any of the stuff that we've had covering, this particular, circumstance. So I'm as guilty as anybody of that, of not celebrating the winners, and how that's not even a story, and it's a shame because those guys won the event. I mean, they were in second place. They deserved to win. They got elevated up, and the team of the year obviously fished 7 other events clean, fished the 8 event clean, and then they're the team of the year, deservedly so. There's so many stories circulating about this, and that is a product of social media where people just don't, there's been a lot of clickbait. Obviously, it helps YouTube channels. It helps clicks, views. Everybody runs to whatever to get it on their tube. Okay, look, I'm guilty of that too, with putting stuff on my YouTube channel right around the day or after or whatever, about it because it's a news story. And so, but a lot of people really haven't dug deep down, and they could name all the people, right, involved. Like, can they name the prosecutor involved? No. Can they name the judge? No. Judge Stephen Gall? Can they name the judge who placed their bail at $2,500 each? No. Because they don't research, they don't pick up the phone, they don't call, they don't get information first, they don't digest the information, they just run to YouTube or run to TikTok or Instagram and put it out there with no responsibility. Because, to be honest, they're not reporters, right? They're not reporters. They're not professionals. They're just schmucks on YouTube like me, okay? But there has to be a level of accountability and ownership. You are talking about 2 individuals in the community that we belong in, right? And yet, okay, they're alleged cheaters at this point, even though people have made up their minds about them, myself included, based on the preponderance of evidence. That does not mean they're going to go to jail, okay? A lot of people are calling for them to go to jail, but in the reality of what we're talking about here is they have been charged with cheating, attempted grand theft, and possessing criminal tools. Now, a lot of people were totally unfamiliar with that. It's worded different in Ohio than it is other states like Maryland, Virginia, and PA. And unlawful ownership of wild animals. So that threw everybody for a loop. What was that all about, right? Because they didn't go to read. Okay, so what does all that mean? Well, those are all in Ohio Class 5 felonies. Class 5. Not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, but a Class 5 felony. Now, how many classes of felonies does Ohio have? That's a great question. Virginia has 6. Okay? If you get charged with a Class 6 felony, and even a lot of Class 5s, I think, you don't go to jail. Sure. But you could go to jail, right? Like it's stated in, they could face up to, they could face up to 12 months in jail, $2,500 in fine. They should go to jail. They should go to jail. But that's never the sentencing recommendations, which happens after they're found guilty. So if they are found guilty by a jury of their peers, remember, a grand jury indicted them on the evidence that the Ohio DNR, according to Stephanie O'Grady from the Ohio DNR, according to the evidence that the DNR provided the Cuyahoga authorities in Cleveland, okay, which is the Cuyahoga County Common Court, I think. Common Pleas Court, I think is what it is. All what they had, and then it was taken. The prosecutor, in this case, which is Michael O'Malley, decided to indict, and then goes to the grand jury. Grand jury, boom, okay. Then you're going to get docketed, okay. So you're going to have your pretrial, which they had. They pled not guilty. And then you're going to have their trial, which will be, depending on what the backflow is, it's Cleveland, which is a major city. So it could be months before they actually have their trial. I mean, it could be spring. They're out on bond, okay, bail, okay, of $2,500 each, issued by Judge Gall. And so they're out there, So you have 3 felony charges and a misdemeanor charge. Okay, unlawful possession of wild animals is a misdemeanor. That's not a felony. as I am looking at the Ohio state law. Now, that carries something probably that most of you, would hate to have other than going to jail. But even if they don't go to jail, they pay fines, or they get probation, or they get community service, and which is likely to happen, okay, if that's the lowest level felony in Ohio, and not get jail time. And remember, mates, depending on the state, okay, we live in a crazy ass freaking time now when it comes to rights, all right? Depending on the state, in some states, the judge does not have the ability to go above and beyond the sentencing recommendations from the Department of Corrections, okay, in your particular state. So if they review it and say these gentlemen have never committed a crime before, they've had a clean record their whole lives, it's the first time they're in court, and I don't know that to be true. I don't know what their criminal record is. Right? The sentencing guidelines and the sentencing coming down will likely be no jail time. Because the jails are full, mates, of okay, violent criminals, violent crime, drug crime, all that other stuff. This, most people are looking at as a white-collar crime, okay? It's theft. It's grand theft. It's not theft with a firearm. It's not a carjacking. It's not violence in any way, okay, that we all are like freaking out about with crime rising across the country. So keep that in mind. So when you're looking at like, well, what's going to happen to these guys? And so obviously they're never going to fish in that event again, okay? The misdemeanor carries with it the opportunity for a lifetime forfeiture of fishing licensing and hunting, I think, in Ohio. It's a combination. So that misdemeanor, which is a lower charge, remember, felonies are stronger than a misdemeanor, okay, offense. Jaywalking is a misdemeanor offense, okay? They could lose their licenses and lose their ability to fish in tournaments and lose their ability even in some states. I'm not sure about Ohio. They also may not be able to register a boat, because one of the other aspects of this case is possessing criminal tools. What does that mean? The tool in which they used to commit their grand theft, allegedly, okay, and to cheat was what? It wasn't their fishing rod, mates. It was their boat, okay? So when people heard about, oh, they got their boat, people were reporting falsely that they had their boat seized. One of their guys had their boat seized because of he won it in a previous tournament that people thought that he cheated in. Okay, but evidently he passed the polygraph of that particular event. Now, there was a fall brawl event in which one of the mates in this team, either Jacob Runyon or Chase Kaminsky, rumors are it's Chase Kaminsky, failed a polygraph in 2021 for fall brawl, okay? But subsequently in other events, they had passed polygraph tests. That's allegedly reported, okay? I do not know if that is accurate or not, that it was Chase and not Jacob who failed a polygraph in that circumstance. But their boat was not seized because of that. Their boat was seized because it was the criminal tool in which they used to allegedly cheat, commit fraud, even though they're not charged with fraud. I don't know why that is, but maybe Ohio is different. Attempted grand theft. Grand theft, it's interesting because in Virginia and in Maryland, the value of the item in which you steal oftentimes determines the level of which your class felony is, okay? So if it's under $500, you've heard that all in the news. Places like New York, places like changing it, lowering it to level, or right to where you don't get prosecuted if you shoplift something at Target that's less than $500, you basically don't even get charged, okay? California, New York, places like that, right? Okay, so all of it depends on the value. Okay, so if it's a class 5 felony, that's shocking to me, because the value would be $28,760 that they attempted to defraud everybody else of. I mean, if you go in a bank and steal $28,000 from the teller, I mean, you're going to get freaking, indicted and charged at the maximum, right? I mean, so that's weird. So there are a lot of questions. Now, the question really is like, no one can seem to dial in where Jacob Runyon is actually from. He's from Cleveland. He's from Ashtabula. He's from Broadview Heights. He's from like every report. It's like no one can figure out where the guy's from. I think that's, we know that Chase Kaminsky's from Pennsylvania, Hermitage, Pennsylvania. So we know that. All right. So unlawful ownership of wild animals. Everyone's like, what's that about? Okay. I got a message about that. And I apologize. It's been weeks since I got that message and I'd never really responded to it. That's the fillets in which these guys allegedly stuffed into the walleye that they came to the scales with. So what Ohio DNR has charged them with, which is a misdemeanor, okay, via the courts, is possessing wild animals unlawfully, meaning they took those walleye, okay, and they cut them, they filleted them, and they stuck them in the fish. And so people's ultimate question is, well, what does that have to do with unlawful possession? Because maybe in Ohio, on Lake Erie, there's a maximum number of walleyes you're permitted to have in your boat. So if they had 5 walleyes in their live well, I think they were not alive when they came to the weigh-ins, which is, I guess, normal there for walleye events. But regardless, they had 5 when they came back to the ramp, but they really had more than 5. We don't know. There are reports that they had at least 1 walleye, meaning 2 fillets, right? And that they stuffed in the other 5 fish. They don't really know that yet. People have seen pictures, pointed to pictures that look like 5 pieces or 4 pieces, probably 1 fish. But that's what they're being charged with because they unlawfully possessed the 6th fish, if that makes sense. So that's where that is at for that. And I have on the screen, like you can take a look. This is what the statement from the prosecutor, Michael O'Malley, was. And it says, as part of the possessing criminal tools charge in this indictment, law enforcement officers of the ODNR, that's the Ohio Department, okay, Natural Resources, and Hermitage, Pennsylvania Police Department, that's where Chase Kaminsky's from, and Mercer County District Attorney's Office and the Pennsylvania Fish and Boat Commission, that's Pennsylvania's DNR, okay. Search warrant on Kaminsky's residence Tuesday, October 11th, and seized Chase Kaminsky's boat and trailer, okay. So that's where you get that image right there, and that's when people all went kind of crazy because no one really understood, and there wasn't really a communication from law enforcement as to why they seized the boat at the time. So it opened the door for continued speculations, okay? And there you have the walleye right here. So unlawful ownership of wild animals charge pertains to their possession of fish fillets on their boat, okay, which they were in the other fish. A conviction on that count may result in indefinite suspension of their fishing licenses, like I said. Here are the indictments, okay, heard in Judge Stephen Gall's courtroom, okay? 1 count of cheating, 5th-degree felony. 1 count of attempted grand theft, 5th-degree felony. 1 count of possessing criminal tools, 5th-degree felony. 1 count of unlawful ownership of wild animals, misdemeanor of the 4th degree, okay? Maybe there's a 5th-degree misdemeanor in Ohio. I'm not sure. Felonies of a 5th degree are punishable up to 12 months, in prison. Up to means the judge can sentence them to 1 day in prison if he wants to, if that's the sentencing guidelines, okay? And up to $2,500 in fines. Misdemeanors of the 4th degree are punishable by up to 30 days in jail and up to $250 in fines. My guess is if they go to jail, they're going to go to jail on that misdemeanor charge. Because I think, and I could be wrong, so don't hold me to this, because every state is different. I think the judge has a lot more leeway and discretion in sentencing if it's a misdemeanor. If it's a felony, I think he has to follow state sentencing guidelines. Stay tuned, okay? Because I've had 3 or 4 lawyers tell me that's true, and I've had one lawyer tell me, well, no, he's got to follow. In Ohio, he follows the sentence recommendations. Most judges follow the sentence recommendations. So don't be surprised if it's the misdemeanor that puts these cats in jail for like 30 days, not the felonies. Because if it's up to the judge's discretion, he's going to read their body language, their behavior. Some of their history may get introduced in this trial. You don't know what the judge is going to allow in. He may only allow everything that happened on the day of this event. He may not allow anything from the previous events, okay, that aren't part of the indictment, okay? Judges are fickle. Like, it's up to that judge to whether or not he's going to allow, what could boil down to character assassination. I mean, not defending these guys at all. I'm just saying, because people have put out a whole bunch of stuff after this incident about these guys from previous events that everybody knew they had cheated repeatedly. Everybody suspected they had cheating. And all that stuff may be irrelevant. And it may only come down to, possession. Okay? And so that's one way. I mean, that's a crazy thought to think about it, I know. But that's what we know they are. They possess the fish with fish fillets stuffed in them. Obviously weights as well. But let's put the weights to the side, because there's nothing about the weights that is in any of these charges other than cheating. Okay? But the fish, the unlawful possession of wild animals, is because of that nature of that. Who witnessed them stuffing the fish? Right? Who's the fact witness in this case? Everybody watching the weigh-in, because they saw the fillets and the meat get cut out, right? So now the defense is going to challenge that video. I guarantee you they're going to challenge however they can. I'm not saying they'll be successful, but you're already starting to see it. You're already starting to see now the hoax. You're already starting to see the kind of like a hoax narrative of like some of the videos aren't real. Which video is the judge going to allow to be introduced in a court of law? No one's talking about that. There's a bunch of videos, okay? Right? So the prosecution office has them all, I would imagine. That's how they building their case. But that doesn't mean that the court is going to allow them to introduce those videos, all of them, into evidence. Okay? Again, chain of custody, right? Like, who made the video? Has the video been edited? Remember the last trials we just saw on TV over the last freaking like 2 years during 2020 riots and all that stuff, where it was all videos, and was the video authentic? Had it been edited? All of this stuff. That's what happens in real court, man. Like, again. So it's going to be really, really interesting. But that is all I got, mates, in terms of an update. It's the first update I've done since October on this. Waiting for the official word. I checked online and can't seem to find a date for the hearing. After the pre-trial, after they had they pled not guilty for the next scheduled hearing. So that's really going to be the next thing. You're going to have a blackout, dark out period. You're not going to be able to find very much information. Everything that's going to be on YouTube from now until that point is going to be like more schmucks like me on YouTube with speculation. I just hope I provided you something a little bit different than the clickbait and, just a little bit more factual stuff and who these people are, where this hearing is going to take place in Cleveland, Ohio. In Cuyahoga, God, I keep saying Cuyahoga, man. Cuyahoga County, Common Pleas Court, who the judge is, who the prosecutor is. You could do yourself with their names and kind of follow, how that's going to go down, how that's going to play out. So it's going to be interesting. I don't think it's going to happen before the end of the year, mates. I think this is going to carry over into 2023. And before we have any resolution in this matter. But that's what I got today, mates. I hope everybody is doing well. Obviously, you're always free to hit me up with any kind of questions or whatever about this topic or any topic you find, or if you have any topics you would like to be covered on the YouTube channel, feel free to message me, JL Scott Fishing and Eats on Facebook, or comment in the video. All right, mates, I'll see you on the